4 prominent scientists who played key roles in shaping the natural origin narrative received more than $50 million from Anthony Fauci's NIAID during 2020 and 2021. The NIAID funding represented a substantial increase when compared to what these scientists had received prior to their promotion of Fauci's natural origin narrative. Some of the funding increases came through an entirely new program. 2 of these coveted grants went to scientists who were co-authors of the influential natural origin paper, Proximal Origin. Both of these men were on Fauci's February 1st secret teleconference, and they privately said a lab leak was likely. The 3rd grant went to EcoHealth President Peter Daszak, just 2 months after President Trump had ordered Fauci to cancel Daszak's funding, after Daszak's entanglements with the Wuhan Institute of Virology had come to light. Hi everyone, and welcome to Truth Over News with Jeff Carlson and Hans Manka.
3 of the scientists who received funding increases from Fauci, Christian Andersen, Robert Garry, and Michael Farzan, were participants in a secret teleconference that was organized by Fauci and held on February 1st, 2020. The teleconference was orchestrated after public reports indicated a funding connection between Fauci's organization and the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which many believe is the origin of the COVID pandemic. During the call, these scientists had told the senior members of Fauci's teleconference that they were 60 to 80% sure that COVID had come out of a lab. These same 3 scientists were also instrumental in the writing and publication of Proximal Origin, a highly influential paper that promoted a natural origin for the COVID-19 virus. Despite their privately voiced concerns about a lab leak as the origin of the virus, the first draft of Proximal Origin, which was completed on the same day as the teleconference, discounted a lab leak and focused on a natural origin for the virus. Andersen and Garry were co-authors of Proximal Origin, and Farzan was acknowledged in the Nature version of Proximal Origin for his participatory discussions in the article's creation. Fauci's NIAID also provided a substantial increase in funding to EcoHealth's Peter Daszak, through whom NIAID had funded controversial gain-of-function coronavirus research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. A significant portion of the funding increase for Daszak, as well as for Andersen and Garry, was provided through NIAID's creation of the Centers for Research in Emerging Infectious Diseases, or CREED.
The 2020 CREED initiative, which was originally conceived under an entirely different name during the early planning stages in 2019, was not formally announced until August 27, 2020, when an announcement was posted on NIAID's website. It's not known why the CREED program, comprising only 11 grants, was initially delayed or why it was renamed. Notably, as its title suggests, the CREED program was specifically designed to focus on natural spillover of diseases from the wild and not on laboratory activities. The 2 Proximal Origin co-authors, Andersen and Garry, were the co-recipients of a new $8.9 million 5-year grant made under the CREED initiative. Daszak was the recipient of a new $7.5 million 5-year CREED grant. Although the creation of CREED was not publicly announced until late August, the award notice date for the grants to Andersen and Garry are listed as May 21, 2020, and the CREED grant to Daszak lists an award notice date of June 17, 2020. The timing of Daszak's grant is particularly noteworthy, as it comes shortly after then-President Trump had revoked Daszak's previous grant from Fauci's NIAID in April 2020 due to Daszak's entanglements with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It's been speculated that Fauci used this new and larger grant to circumvent Trump's cancellation of Daszak's previous grant. Andersen, who privately told Fauci on January 31, 2020, that the virus looked engineered, but later helped spearhead Fauci's efforts to promote a natural origin narrative, received a total of $7.4 million in funding in 2020, compared with only $4.5 million in 2019. Anderson's total grant funding increased to nearly $9 million in 2021. These new financial revelations raise an obvious question. How is it that among the thousands of scientists eligible to participate in the much-desired funding from the 11 grants provided by Fauci's new $82 million CREAT initiative, 3 of those chosen happen to be the same individuals who had led the way in promoting Fauci's natural origin narrative, despite their private concerns that the virus had been created in a lab?
During the February 1st, 2020 teleconference, Anderson claimed that he was 60 to 70% sure the virus had come out of a lab. One of Anderson's proximal origin co-authors, Edward Holmes, put that figure even higher at 80%. Gary, who told the senior members of Fauci's teleconference group that I really can't think of a plausible natural scenario where you get from the bat virus to COVID-19. Well, he received 7 million in NIAID grants in 2020 as compared to 5.7 million in 2019. Gary also received 6.6 million in 2021. During the February 1st, 2020 teleconference, Gary cited the remarkable sequence of mutations that would have had to have occurred for the COVID virus to arise naturally, telling the group that I just can't figure out how this gets accomplished in nature. However, Gary noted that a lab-created virus would easily explain the virus data. Gary recently admitted that he had been advised by the leaders of Fauci's teleconference not to discuss a lab leak in the proximal origin paper, stating that the major feedback we got from the February 1st teleconference was, don't try to write a paper at all, it's unnecessary. Or, if you do write it, don't mention a lab origin, as that will just add fuel to the conspiracist. Notably, the directive not to mention the virus's lab origin was made at the same time the teleconference had reached a consensus that COVID had most likely come out of a lab. Gary, along with Anderson, heeded that directive because on February 1st, 2020, the same day as Fauci's teleconference, both men completed the first draft of Proximal Origin. The paper aggressively promoted a natural origin for COVID-19 and actively discounted any lab leak theory. Proximal Origin was published online on February 16th, 2020. The choice of Anderson as the lead author for Proximal Origin is particularly curious, as Anderson has had no material experience in researching coronaviruses. His stated focus at the time was related to Zika, Ebola, the West Nile virus, and the Lassa virus. It wasn't until sometime after the February 1st teleconference that Anderson changed his biography on his website to incorporate coronaviruses.